Assalamu alaikum, Brother Yusuf.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for coming in today and sharing your story in accepting Islam and converting to Islam. So Alhamdulillah, we just heard from Brother Reed Janie, and now Brother Reed Jane, and now we're hearing from our community member, Brother Yusuf. So Yusuf, how long have you been Muslim?
Alhamdulillah, I've been Muslim since October 19th, 2010.
MashaAllah.
Almost 2 years, over 2 years.
Oh, great. Okay. So, and before I guess we ask about your journey to Islam, were you born and raised in the U.S.?
No, I was not.
Oh, you were? Okay. So where were you born?
I was born and raised in Santiago, Chile.
Ah, Chile. Okay. So how long were you there before you came to the U.S.?
Alhamdulillah, I came here when I was in '97.
Mm-hmm.
I was 7 years old. I just finished my kindergarten class, moving into first grade, and then we moved throughout the U.S., starting in Miami, Florida.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Okay, طيب, alhamdulillah, that's great. And so I guess basically, can you share with us your first knowledge of Islam, or when you first heard about it, and first got interested?
Sure. Alhamdulillah, I wasn't exposed as much to Islam when I was young because my father, being a pastor, it was very different. My outlook in my faith, in my whole way of life, was basically the Christian aspect. So everything from the teachings to the literature, everything was something I absorbed and something I maintained. Being like the senior, like the oldest son, that was my task, my priority to uphold in my family. Alhamdulillah.
Well, can you explain this? What do you mean uphold? What was it they wanted you to uphold?
They wanted me to uphold because in my tradition or
culture?
my culture, the oldest, especially being a male, you have to carry like the family
responsibility.
Not just responsibility, but the family like outlook. So people will look into the family and they'll look onto you, and they'll be like, "This is the man. This is the representation. This is who's going to be leading this family in the future." And so on.
Okay. All right. So, So then what happened?
So then we moved in '97 to Minnesota. Florida. Then Minnesota. Then Kansas, and then finally California.
Oh, mashallah. Nomad.
In California, we lived with my grandmother. My grandmother is also a very religious person. A block from the street, we had a church.
Okay. Which, if I may ask, what denomination from Christianity?
We were, my father was an evangelist pastor.
Okay.
But my family on my grandmother's side, on my mother's side, was Presbyterian.
Okay. So what was the challenge there? Any challenges between?
There was many challenges because in 2009 I was made aware into Islam. Actually, when I first got into college, I became kind of interested in different religions and perspectives, because when I came into college, I became I kind of despised faith. Because there was a moment in my time in my life that I was led astray. I went from a strong Christian to being scared and also led astray and believing that such things are not relevant or not proven or otherwise. So in college, I studied a lot of faith and also studied a lot of science, and I would always rebuttal or argue with certain religious groups to the point where they would leave campus.
When you say leave campus, what do you mean?
For example, there was one. I can remember a time where there were Scientologists, and they always they have something called stress meter. So what they do is they ask you a myriad of questions, and those questions relate to your past or anything that has to do with personal problems or anything like that. And then it seems like you're stressed. Now, obviously, when they ask you such questions, there's going to be some tension growing. And then they tell you afterwards, you ask for answers, and they tell you have to read this book. And for me, I was like, if this is faith, if it's something you have to buy your way into, then what's the point? Anybody can buy their way into. Last second, faith isn't something is relevant. Until one day, a sister asked me what I thought about Islam. She was a sister with hijab, and at that time, I knew nothing about Islam. And then she told me, she's like, "What do you think about Islam?" And I responded with a kind of a non-objected reply, like, well, this is, I know nothing. And then she replied, well, can you make any assumption? Can you make anything like that that you would think or you would want to think? And I was like, if it's something that I am irrelevant of or I am unaware of, I cannot imply like my answer. I can't really state something that I'm not aware of. But I can assure you I'll study it. So, actually, this was the first masjid I went to get a book.
Here?
Sheikh
Anwar.
I came, Dr. Anwar.
Yeah.
I asked him, I came to him, I was like, I would like to get some books on Islam. And he asked me, he's like, why are you interested? And I was like, I don't know anything about Islam. Some of my friends are Muslim, and I would like to learn more. He's like, okay, here, you have it. And so I did. I took some, and then I went to Fremont, Talif. It's not a masjid, but it's a community area for Muslims. And I also took some books from them, and I read it. Now, in a scientific method, or in a scientific arena, like you are faced with questions, and when you have an answer to this question, it's like a light bulb. But as these answers like transgressed into my feelings, into my way of thought, it wasn't like an aha moment. It was more like something that kind of laid itself like above, like a blanket, above like a question, and became answer.
Right.
So that was how Islam came into me. I just slowly started to feel my faith kind of, like I guess, recollect itself.
Okay, so when you said blanket, that's an interesting perspective. Can you kind of more maybe describe what that meant?
Well, it's not something that
did you feel like some spirit? Was it like a spiritual awakening or a spiritual envelopment?
I think it was a spiritual resurrection. It was because it was a point where I was very faithful, to a point where like I just doubted my faith, to a point where like this is what I need, this is my answer, this is my resolution.
You felt Islam had that.
Yes.
Okay.
I felt Islam had more answers than I can ever figure out.
Okay, and when you say more answers, what specifically had more answers?
Not just in like a phrase or something you say, but in a feeling and in something you refer to.
So when you say more answers, is it like after? I mean, did you read booklets, or was it the Quran?
I mean, I read booklets and things like that. But I mean, for example, one of my favorite verses from the Quran is Al-Baqarah 2:115, which is where you stand in the east or in the west, there is the face of Allah. Now, when I was a Christian, one of my favorite verses from the Bible was Psalms 23:1, which is the Lord is your shepherd and you shall not be in want. So basically, this idea where you need nothing else but Allah, God, Dios, whatever you want to call him. This is His love, His mercy, and through the Quran, through what I've learned in Hadith, sayings from the Prophets, and also through the Quran and through people, a conversation or sheikhs that I've met, it's always been much more feeling than just something implied, something that's just said. It's been an experience, basically.
Beautiful. Okay, so I guess in brief, when was it that you decided, or what was the deciding factor that made you say that you want to become Muslim?
When I became a Muslim, when I took my Shahada, I was wearing shorts and I was wearing earrings. I didn't know that this journey was going to be like as it turned out. I never knew it was going to change to the man I am today, alhamdulillah. But all I can say is that I at that time, it wasn't that I expected greatness, but it was a great feeling.
Beautiful. So I guess, so it was something, internal and something from the unseen, because we know in the Quran God talks about, those who believe in the unseen. So I guess, so it's the unseen virtues that was dear to you.
And slowly after that, it became a matter of, it never became a matter of why, because when people resort to religion, they always ask why. It no longer became that, it became when.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brother Yusuf, and inshallah, Hopefully we will hear more from you and
Inshallah.
hopefully from the community. And
Inshallah.
thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.